I-V-M.
Hi, I'm Zarina Poonawala, a life coach, a business mentor, and a motivational speaker. I tackle the challenges that come with varied work cultures, and I try to give out some cheat codes for loving your job in the second season of the Empowering series with me, Zarina. This show will feature live sessions with me and a participant, most likely to be an entrepreneur, a startup founder, an employee, a recruiter, or just about anyone who strives to love their job and looks forward to bringing in a positive shift at their workplace. Today we have a very pulsating and vivacious personality with us, Kajol Srinivasan. Hello, Kajol.
Hi, Zarina.
So, Kajol, you are a stand-up comedian and you are an influencer and you've been doing some amazing work in your field in art and space. Please tell us, how did you get into this? Tell us all about you. I'm pretty sure our listeners want to listen to everything you have.
So I've been doing stand-up for nearly 3 years now.
Fantastic.
I also have a day job because all comedians should. So I started my own company, one-person company, when I got out of engineering.
All right.
And that's been sustaining me so far.
Okay. Oh, and what does your company do?
I'm a graphic designer.
Wonderful.
I used to do websites and programming and stuff, but now it's essentially and mostly graphic design.
Excellent, yeah.
How I got into stand-up?
Yep.
This is not the journey I would have chosen, you know. 6 years back, my mom got diagnosed with Parkinson's.
Oh, okay.
And I thought I had my life charted out. And then that just changed everything. I suddenly went, like, my mom's a very dynamic person. She's a social worker. She's been a social worker all her life. And suddenly she went from being that person who was in charge and dynamic and, you know, the superwoman.
Right.
To me having to take care of her.
Right.
And I was not used to taking care of anyone.
Yes, it's just the mom's responsibility, isn't it?
More than that, it's what I've been used to all my life. My mom was always the one taking care of me.
Right.
So I went through a really tough time trying to transition, you know. I think I went through a little bit of a depressive phase for 2 years.
Okay.
Because earlier when people used to tell me I have to stay home, I have to look after my parents or whatever, it never struck a chord in me.
Right.
I used to be like, okay, so you can't make it.
Yeah, basically, just another day in your life and you've decided not to come.
Yes. And I never understood how tough it is.
Right.
So this whole experience changed me a lot. It brought me to a point where I was depressed and my wings were clipped because, you know, there's a lot of sacrifice that happens when you're taking care of an ailing parent.
True.
And I just needed to talk. I needed to be on stage expressing myself. So 3 years back, nearly 3 years back, I met this comedian on a dating app.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting one.
I think everyone's met him on the dating app.
I wouldn't know. I'm not a comedian. I don't have a dating app. So.
Yeah. All comedians are on dating apps.
Okay.
And I told him I wanted to be a comedian. So he just registered me for an open mic happening a month later.
Lovely.
And he says, you have 1 month, you can do this.
Oh, so it was just out of this entire situation and where you came from and you suddenly just decided you wanted to be a comedian? Or did you always have that little inclination towards comedy or you had that in you?
I've always had that pull for the stage.
Okay.
I've been a dancer, but not professionally on stage. I tried acting. I've been fired from 2 acting classes. I really have. But I was pulled towards the stage, but I didn't know for what.
All right.
And then stand-up comedy just happened.
Okay.
So I went for my first open mic. And I'd lovingly written this very boring TED talk. Like, I remember reading it to a friend and she was like, it's very nice. When you going to put in the jokes?
So she couldn't find the punch in that.
There was no punch in that.
Yeah, like I said, it's a TED talk. You made it.
Yes, it was very informative.
All right.
So, but that night the audience was very supportive. So, I actually got a good response. And I was thinking, you know, all comedians say we tanked the first time and all of that.
Right.
I've got applause. So maybe I'm the chosen one the scene is looking for.
Right.
Yeah. Then I tanked for the next 3 months.
So your first one really went well.
Yes, it really went well.
Yeah. Beginner's luck, you can call that.
Sometimes the audience is just happy for no other reason. Yeah. So then I tanked for 3 months. It got to a point where I got so scared of tanking that I used to pretend to have fever and not land up for open mics.
Oh God, really?
Of course. Humiliation, public humiliation.
I know. It's hard. It's hard.
So yeah, that was the beginning.
So it's all coming out from this devastating or a little bit of a low experience in life where mom's going through something and you actually realize that, okay, you need to get out there and express yourself.
More than that. So my dad was like me, creative, very, very thinking with the mind more than the heart.
Sure.
And that is basically my nature till today. So I was a lot like him. I didn't have too much compassion for other people's experiences.
All right.
This forced me to have compassion.
Mm.
And I don't think I'd have been on stage as a stand-up comedian without it.
So it actually, I think, an experience like this allows us to become so benevolent in that moment. And you realize that it's important to empathize and get sensitive towards people around you, because until and unless something happens, something strong is struck to someone so important to you, you do not realize what people around you are going through.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So I guess maybe yes, but what has that taught you? I mean, you've come out of something and you've become something else, right?
Okay, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
So years back, I was learning ballroom samba from this international instructor.
1 minute. I'll have to make a list of all the things that you've been learning, acting, dancing and whatnot.
Acting was a flop.
Okay,
Acting
but you
was a
tried.
flop.
Trying is important. So
my trainers did not think that trying was important.
Okay, so salsa.
No, samba.
Samba.
Okay, samba, ballroom samba.
Mm-hmm.
And that has a lot of flair and
right.
a lot of... your hands and your legs and all are very, very, there's a lot of drama to it.
Sure, yes.
So we were being taught by this instructor down from the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And she taught us the moves. And then she said, don't do it until you're extremely confident of doing it. Because the audience will sense your nervousness and be embarrassed on your behalf.
Oh.
So a lot of Indians think that when audiences react negatively to you, they're judging you, because in India, judging is this big thing.
Is this thing, yes.
And it needed someone from the UK to give me this perspective that they're actually feeling empathetic towards you. They can understand what you're going through.
Wow, that's beautiful.
That is.
That
so
is beautiful.
When I go onto stage, that's what I carry in my head.
Right.
Like, when you're tanking for the first 3 months, yes, you think the audiences are judgmental bastards.
Right.
But when you take it in your head that they don't want to see you tank. No one's paid money and come to sit in a show and see someone be miserable on stage. Of course. They want you to do well.
Right.
So when you take it onto stage that they're also compassionate towards you, that changes the whole dynamic.
And how did the 3 months of tanking change into your next role of successes?
Okay. So in the first 3 months, I was trying to be George Carlin. I was trying to be Amy Schumer. I was trying to be a lot of things which I wasn't. I was trying to talk about things which did not mean anything to me.
Okay.
Like the audience might have wanted to know about the friend zone, but not from me.
Right.
And human beings are wired to recognize authenticity.
Sure.
Like they can tell you, that's why the audience is so important. They know whether it's sounding real from your mouth. So 3 months down the line, I did not prepare for a set, and I impromptu went on stage and started talking about this experience I had with a psychotherapist.
Oh.
Yeah, it has really happened. It was a miserable experience. It was funny in a way because I got fired from there as well. But that struck a chord because it was real.
Right.
So I think in every comedian's career, there'll be one point in the first few months when he realizes that this might work with me.
Right.
And
you have to find your niche and you have to find your kind of genre.
You have to find what is real to you.
To you, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And how did that go forward? Then, I mean, you picked up this story from your past experience with a psychotherapist and then you moved on in what direction?
So then I built that set more. It worked for the next 2 months and then it stopped working.
Okay.
Which is another thing every comedian goes through.
Right.
So the audience accepts a certain level from you when you're a start out. Because they can see you're nervous and they can see that out of that, this is coming out and this is good. Then as you gain more confidence, then it's suddenly not as good as, they expect more from you.
Yes. I mean, basically you're raising your own bar in a certain way, which is great. So, you have to benchmark yourself and create that space for you. Keep growing in that space.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay. So then how do these creative juices flow Kajol, because I think it's very hard to be a comedian, and especially somebody who's doing improv or stand-up. It's really hard to be out there. It looks like you guys are just talking out of nowhere. You know, it sounds like a very candid conversation. It sounds like a bit of a candid monologue, if not a dialogue. But at the end of the day, there's so much planning, preparation, so much practice. And
I agree with you.
A thought process that goes into it, right?
And every corporate HR thinks that we're just pulling it out of the hat.
Yeah, isn't it?
I have had shows where 10 minutes before the show, the HR has sat down with me and said, let's just go through your set. We'll tell you what to cut out and what more you can add in. And then you can just improv it. I said, no, there's nothing like improv it. I've written it down.
Exactly. So, I mean, how does that work? How do you take this whole, because it's not something you've been doing for many, many years. It's something that you learned, you're growing with.
I get it.
Right?
So, stand-up is an art you will essentially learn on stage, no matter how much you prep for it otherwise. Whether you might be a good writer, you might be a good performer, but you will learn and build yourself on stage.
Sure.
So it is a process of going out with something, seeing if it works, coming back, reworking it. Something which always works for me is whenever you write your own joke, you think is damn hilarious. You know, you think is genius. You can hear the audience just roaring with laughter. So I imagine another comedian saying it.
Okay.
A professional comedian or somebody I know, I imagine them saying the same joke. Suddenly it's not that funny.
But that's interesting. That's a good perspective. Trying another comedian.
Yeah, because when it's yours, it's amazing, right?
Yeah, totally. So how do you deal with it?
Well, frankly, sometimes you just wedded to the joke. You take it on stage, it tanks anyway. But I normally don't go out with the premise I've not worked on too much.
Sure.
There are comedians who do and it works for them. For me, I need to have the punchline written down in the exact words.
Okay.
I don't care what happens before it. Before I take and waffle and say whatever I want. But the punchline, the rhythm of the punchline is something I've written down and come.
Wow. That's amazing, because I'm pretty sure that our listeners out there, especially the ones who want to probably get into stand-up comedy or understand how stand-up comedy works, this is a great tip for people like them, you know, being able to understand how you use this, a perspective from a comedian, or writing down that punchline and making sure that you want to deliver it in the exact same manner.
But see, that's what works for me. It might not work. There are lots of comedians who go on stage just with a premise and they make it work.
Okay.
So everyone has their own style. Whatever comes naturally to you.
So I guess it's a combination of things.
Yeah.
It definitely is, isn't it? All right. You've been in this industry for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned. You've been also doing your day job.
Yeah.
And you've been handling a one-man show as an entrepreneur.
Yes.
So that's wearing too many hats. How do you manage all of that?
So I get by with a little less sleep than normal people do.
All right. How many hours do you sleep? I'm asking as a coach now.
I think I get 5 hours in the night.
Okay.
And I can take a 1 hour siesta in the afternoon.
All right. That's nice. You get afternoon time.
I'm at home. I'm a one-person company.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Such a lovely way to work.
Right? It is, because finally I can manage my own time. So I am a control freak.
Okay.
I think that's why I've done engineering. I am the kind of person who messages people at 9 a.m. to ask them if they're free and where are we meeting at 9 p.m.
Right.
It's very essential for me to get my day planned when I get up.
Okay.
It really irritates the hell out of people. But it helps in my job. Because I can deal with my corporate clients and I never miss shows and I always have that all planned and charted lots in advance.
Wow. Like you're very well organized, that means.
I'm not extremely well organized in terms of finances and stuff. That I hate numbers. But in terms of managing 2 careers, because comedy is something I really want to do, I manage it.
So you manage all these different roles and different duties that you probably have kind of incurred upon yourself. These are all they're all taken. I mean, they're choices you've made.
They're choices I've made.
And
correct.
How do you feel about the choices you've made so far with your life, Kajol?
So I think I'm fortunate to have a job that's giving me money to live on while I'm doing comedy. A lot of comedians don't have that choice because they get into it really young. And then they're also dependent on taking up any sort of gigs or any sort of writing assignments just to make ends meet.
Right.
I do not have that barrier.
Okay.
And I've come to a point where I'm doing comedy for fun and it should be pure and I don't want to put pressure on it to be making money for me at the same time.
Okay, so you have something on the side and that's helping you generate the income that you require.
Exactly. And I personally feel that anyone trying out in any of these fields like comedy or acting or whatever, it's wonderful to have a second job. As long as you can keep it, keep it.
So, and you're managing that well. But having said that, do you think it's a lot of challenges to be able to make your space and kind of claim your territory in the middle of so many people who at the same time have gotten into an industry which is so competitive now?
You find your niche.
Yeah.
If you're in the industry for about 3 or 4 years, you've somewhat got an idea of what your niche is.
Right.
Every industry is competitive, and especially ones that involve the spotlight.
Agreed.
There are tons of people contesting for that. The thing is, I can't think of anything more I want to do. This is the way I want to be, and then I want to die. Like, there is nothing in between. So there's no choice.
But that's the choice you've made.
Yes.
Actually, why would you say there's no choice?
There's no choice not in a negative way. There's nothing else I can think of doing.
All right, this is it for you.
This is it for me.
That's wonderful. And having said that, you also mentioned that, you, like you said, this is it for me, and there's nothing else between this and dying for you.
No.
So how do you manage to see people give up on their dreams or their passion? The fact that sometimes we want to do something with our lives and then we realize that, hey, this is not working out in this manner, so let's just give up. But you don't find different ways of getting to do the same thing. For instance, with you knew you always had this love for the mic or the stage or the spotlight, but you didn't probably know how you're going to get there and make it happen.
You're right about that. But I didn't know I was going to be a stand-up comedian.
Exactly. But that's the whole point. You knew that you liked something, but how to get there, how to make it happen for you?
Not okay. So I'll tell you what. I think society makes us in such a way that they give us these unrealistic expectations of what our life is going to be and how perfect it's going to be.
Right.
And then you cross over into your 30s and you realize the truth. Life isn't like that.
Right.
And I have been in that state where I've been thinking, like, now what? Because it's nice to have a goal when you think that, there are amazing things happening with that goal and, fame and fortune are everything and it's all wonderful.
Yeah.
And that's not true.
Of course not. Of course not. I know what you mean.
So it's very easy to give up. To be honest, when I was in a depressive limbo for 2 years, I had given up. This just happened. I have no other words to put it in.
It just happened. But it's probably the best thing that happened.
Yeah, it is the best thing that happened to me.
Okay. Moving on from a little bit of the stand-up comedy, as a person, what do you enjoy doing in your free time and how do you spend your leisure?
I am happiest writing, reading, and going on stage.
Wow. What kind of books do you read?
I love Terry Pratchett.
Oh, lovely. That's
my
nice.
all-time favorite. I read basically a lot of anything. I read a lot of research and stuff on the internet as well.
That speaks, for your Bengali genes.
South Tamilian genes as well.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's an interesting combination to be in. That's a very educated and a very...
That's true. Both my parents were teachers. Like my mom was in Sophia's. My dad, for some part of his life, was a teacher in Sophia's.
Right.
Then he became a writer in ad agencies.
Beautiful. So you followed a bit into both your folks' footsteps, haven't you? Wonderful. Okay. So, Kajal, what is it that you would actually tell listeners who, probably want to get into comedy or just follow something that they want to do? Because there is this time in our lives when we become slightly stagnated. We don't know what we are doing. And maybe for you and me, that time may have come later in our lives. But for most people these days, it comes much earlier.
I know.
Where they go through this feeling of depression or loneliness or don't know what to do with life, no purpose.
Yeah.
That kind of a feeling. How does one deal with it? I mean, how did you deal with it and how would you imagine people dealing with it?
I think there is some part of you that refuses to die even when you're depressed.
Right.
Those people give up completely. But as long as you're still there in whatever state of limbo, there is some part of you that wants to go on.
True.
Now, when I joined stand-up, I was horrible on stage. I've always been an introvert. I'm very repressed. So that used to come out on stage big time. People have told me that you were so brittle, we thought you'd break in the first 1 month. So I hired a coach.
Okay.
He was an acting coach. And I thought I'd be learning some sort of acting tips from him.
Right.
But he actually went deep into molding me into a different person. I definitely think coaching is a wonderful thing. People don't give it enough importance.
Yes.
The whole Indian thing is that we can get by without doctors, coaches, whatever.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Self-medication is best medication.
Totally.
In our country, yes.
But that helped me a lot.
Okay. So having a good mentor or coach actually kind of sculpts you into what you want to be, probably?
Totally. And also, you're getting a source of validation, which is separate from your family and friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be very honest here. When you're into a field which involves a spotlight and which doesn't involve stability and all of the usual stuff that we are dealing with, your friends and family are not the most supportive of people.
True.
It's not their fault.
Yeah.
It's just that they're trying to protect you from what they think is coming.
Yes. They probably think this is not your space and it can break you, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. True. Since you mentioned you're an introvert and you love the stage.
Yeah.
That is a contradictory statement in terms of people who have stereotypes in their heads about introverts and extroverts in general, which is not what I believe in. But you know how the world usually puts introverts in this little box where you are underconfident to be a performer. You don't like speaking or you don't like communicating, which is not true.
Where stand-up comedians are concerned, most of them are introverts who want to be on stage.
That is the fun of the contradiction, right?
Yes.
That's the irony of the entire setup that you have. Is it hard to make people laugh?
In the first few months, you will realize it's very easy to make people laugh.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is making them laugh on your terms. No, there are people who make, oh, I've come from Bhandup. That is a joke. And in India, or they do self-deprecating humor.
Yes.
In India, if you call yourself fat, ugly, bald, dark, whatever, there's a section of the audience willing to roar with laughter at it.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to be that. And what my coach had done was he made me write out what I wanted to be on stage and what I did not want to be on stage.
Wonderful.
And he made me build that persona for myself. So this was when I had just started stand-up. And I said, you want me to take that onto stage?
Yeah.
He said, no, I want you to take that every time you leave your house. This is a discipline you build now.
Right.
So it's easy to make people laugh at any point by playing to the gallery, dirty sex jokes. Trust me, I have done that. Like, people think that tanking on stage is the worst thing that can happen to you. No. Selling out to the audience because you feel that is the only way you can survive your 10 minutes on stage, that is the worst thing. And I've done it. I have made the most horrible, low-hanging jokes on stage at one point. And when I got off, I got a great response. But when I got off, I said, this will never happen again.
It's just something that sometimes your audience or people who are watching you, they're happy with what you've done, but you internally aren't. Is it one of those moments where you think that you're not satisfied yourself with or that's not you?
That's not me. Also, the audience generally is quite happy with anything. They've come to the show, they're happy, they're not wanting to think too much. Some clown is doing something on stage. No worries.
And also when audiences come in for comedy or stand-up comedy, they're usually coming with the mindset that, hey, it's just going to be easy going, so let's laugh at whatever comes our way. But they have certain expectations when you start raising the bar for yourself as well. So
the point is, when you start out, you're doing 5 minutes on stage, you're doing 10 minutes on stage.
Right.
You have to come to a point where you're doing a special on stage, which is 1 hour. Will someone sit through 1 hour of those stupid jokes that you're doing on stage? Is what you need to ask yourself. They're not going to.
Yeah. I mean, as a speaker, I'm doing a lot of talking and speeches and motivation. And sometimes, having conversations with leaders for 1 hour, 2 hours, a long time. For me also, I mean, as a speaker, we always look that when you're speaking in public, when you're dealing with stage fright or when you're giving that kind of coaching to people, you always ask people to add humor so that you lighten the atmosphere, you break the ice and you create a nice energy and vibe. I find that so hard as it is just to create that kind of humor sometimes. I can't imagine you guys having to do it for an hour at a stretch, just constantly make people laugh. It's really hard.
As one producer told me, he said, after 1 year in comedy, making people laugh is your job. If you can't, you have failed it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a profession, so.
Like, one of the mistakes you make when you're an amateur is that when you're doing a show where you just have a 10-minute spot and there are a lot of people doing 10-minute spots, if you're not doing too well, you bail out. So very amateur thing is you go up on stage, you don't get a response in the first joke, you throw your best jokes at the audience is not ready for it, you still don't get a response, you say, okay guys, that's my time, and you run off stage, and all of us have done it. When you become a professional.
Genuinely have done that.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. You think you want to stand there and you're not used to it.
Right.
When you become professional and you get paid for gigs, the most important thing is standing there and doing your time no matter what. And that changes you as a performer, because now it becomes like a job, not in a bad way.
Right.
That's what is expected of you.
And you also start understanding the seriousness of your business.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Making people laugh is serious business.
Yeah.
So you understand the seriousness, the professionalism, the ethics, the morals that you want to follow, or certain standards and mandates that you want to follow whilst you're in the business of it.
Totally.
Right? That's interesting. Have you ever, Kajol, felt like an underestimated person when you started off? Were there moments, we all have a journey, like we say, and the journey has its mandatory speed bumps, obstacles, diversions, etc., etc. So you must have had your own.
Of course.
And how did you deal with that? And when people have underestimated you or made you feel as though maybe you're not enough, or this isn't working out for you, this is not your space, what have you done then?
So I've had producers. One of my drawbacks in their eyes is that I'm a completely English comic. And in their view, that is a very, very small segment of the Indian market.
Okay.
Another person had a problem because I was doing news and current affairs, and he said, "You sound like a news reader."
All right.
So it feels bad. There's no way around it. When people give you negative feedback in that sense, when people tell you that comedy may not be the right thing for you.
Right.
I've never faced this men-woman divide.
Lovely.
And it has been there in comedy a while back, but there was a lot of groundwork put in by female comedians themselves who've been in the scene for a while. And by the time I entered, it was just wonderful being a woman and being in comedy. There are pockets of places, where it doesn't work that way.
Right.
But by and large, it's fine.
Wow.
But when people give you negative feedback and there's no getting around it. The only good thing about comedy is you can be doing extremely well and there will still be 500 people on Twitter telling you you're awful and you suck.
And that's what I wanted to come to, How do you deal with all the negativity or trolls? Because once you become an influencer or you have a following, then you're also exposed to the fact that you say anything, it can be used against you.
Yeah.
And of late, we have noticed the trend amongst people where they want to be negative, they want to criticize, they want to appall you, make you feel, kind of demean you in a way. So how do you deal with that? Because that's very, that can be very demotivating for somebody who's out there making people laugh.
When I first joined Twitter, and my first 2-3 tweets went viral, and that time I had no following. So there was this big Twitter handle which really supported me. And he said, listen, if you can't take the negativity on Twitter, this is not the place for you. He said Twitter operates on the zone of hatred, of making a noise about something. There is very few positive influences totally on Twitter. See, there's just an n number of insults which people can give you. There are permutation combinations. So it hurts. In the 100 positive comments, the one negative comment will hurt initially. But then you just realize that, it's going to come. There's no originality happening. It's the same sort of you're ugly or this thing or that thing, your sexual comment, whatever. You get used to it. I mean, Twitter has a lot of positives to it. You use it because you can reach a lot of people. People underestimate the power of Twitter.
Of course.
You're essentially running your own radio station if you have a certain amount of followers.
Right.
You are broadcasting.
Right.
So, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. And you have to just kind of nip it in the bud in the beginning when you start changing your approach.
You ignore it.
Absolutely. Okay. On that note, let's take a short break and we'll be right back after this break and continue this conversation.
Hey everybody, you know what we've got? We've got another awesome week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please make sure you do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So if you haven't been following us on YouTube, please do a search for IVM CCTV and get a peek inside what's going on in the studio. You can see excerpts from Cyrus Says, Naveen from Keeping It Queer, Akash from Varta Lab. There's stuff that we've done with Feeding 10 Billion. There are a whole bunch of little videos over there. Give it a watch and let us know what you think about that. This week on Cyrus Says, it's a podcast crossover as hosts of our new show, GBCD Farhad Karkaria and Sunitro Lairi join Cyrus to talk about the meaning of being queer, how to define labels and how their podcast came about. Also, speaking of GBCD, Farhad and Sunitro in their show delve into the family stories and recalling what it was like to navigate queerness as a kid. On Paisa Vaisa, Anupam is joined by two guests, Ankur Chaudhary and Swapnil Bhaskar. They're the co-founders at Goldwise. They discuss the new features at Goldwise and transitioning from regular to direct mutual funds. On Golgappa, Trupti is joined by Mahesh Ane, award-winning cinematographer who is known for his work on Swades. He talks about the ups and downs that he encountered along the way in the film industry. On Ganatantra, Alok and Saryu are joined by Smitana Saikia of Flame University, Pune to talk about the history and impact of the NRC list and how it has caused marginalization in the Northeast. On another crossover, this time on What a Player, Mikhail and Siddhartha joined by Sivram Parmeswaran, the host of the podcast Football Shitball. They talk about the thrill of watching football and following a club. On Mr. and Mrs. Binge Watch, Janice and Anirudh look back at the best and worst moments of the 2019 Emmy Awards. On Advertising is Dead, Varun is joined by singer-songwriter Ankur Tiwari, who talks about how artists find new forms of expression and monetize their work. And with that, let's get you on with your show.
Welcome back, and I'm still in conversation with Kajol Srinivasan. So Kajol, we've been having this amazing conversation and you've been sharing this journey that you've had, an amazing journey. Things that you've gone through, things that have made you what you are. You were talking about Twitter and the funny trolls and things that come your way usually. Why don't you highlight a little more on that? Because I'm pretty sure listeners love what's happening on social media. You know?
Okay. So what happens is that you get a lot of trolls on social media if you're doing political tweeting.
True.
Or if you're a woman doing any kind of tweeting which is getting popular.
Mm-hmm.
My only defense is I tweet in English. So a lot of trolls don't understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had people coming in, typing in a gali in Hindi, waiting for 5 minutes, seeing no response, and then retyping it in English in their horrible translation because they think I didn't understand.
I see.
Yes. So that's just part of the game, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But there was an incident which happened recently.
Do tell.
Yeah. So there's this pretty well-known handle, which I'm not going to name, female handle. And she does political tweeting.
Okay.
So she gets a lot of trolling all the time. Okay. They always take off, looks and, whatever. And she took hold of one of those tweets and retweeted it with a very strong insult from her side.
Right.
Okay. Which she was making a point that y'all are sending me so many tweets. I can also respond.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see anything wrong with that. But people who are on the left side, on whatever side, they went at it saying that we didn't expect such language from you.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm unfollowing you on the basis of this. We are so geared to blaming the victim, especially when it's a woman.
It's so true because I think when we start victimizing people, we are not realizing that you start first giving them the power and then you want to highlight them in that same power and then abuse them more.
Exactly.
And that's what you want to do,
exactly. Right? Pedestals are always very confining spaces.
Yes, they are. And especially, it's true, in our country, they're slightly more confining because we have a democracy and we have the freedom of speech, yet we don't.
Exactly.
So that's where we are at this point in time, aren't we?
But I think world over, we love bullying people.
Yeah.
For something or the other.
Right.
And there's this mold we're forced into that if you're reaching for the limelight, you have to look and be perfect.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely.
Like, there's no room for normal people there.
And unfortunately, all the world is normal.
Exactly. I mean, if you see them apart from their Tinder, from their Instagram profiles, they're all very normal.
Yeah. What are the standards people are setting? And the best part is, if you notice these trolls and people who probably have such derogatory comments that they're making on others, I think they come from a very disturbed space themselves.
They hate themselves.
Yeah, I don't think they're in their correct frame of mind because one, I don't see the reason why somebody is so involved in some ex-person's life, whether an influencer, celebrity, stranger, to have to say something that mean and demeaning. And two, I don't understand why you're so free. How do you have the time?
Because they're very true, very right? Jobless people, but also very anonymous people. I think Twitter brings out stuff within us which we would not do in public. Like if I disagree with you, I will say, Zarina, I don't agree with you. This is my point of view, whatever. I'm not going to be like, you moron. Don't talk about what you don't know. That's a tone on Twitter.
Correct. So the tonality that people have set for themselves, maybe because we are just so intolerant and we're not accepting of different people just being the way they are. Just want to find a reason.
So, it's damn interesting. When we have open mics initially, we have to pay to perform. Okay.
Okay.
People don't know that about comedians.
Okay.
We have to actually pay to perform. And we have to get one friend along. It's called a +1 thing.
Oh, lovely.
So, when you're starting out, all your friends will come. They will laugh at every comedian on the lineup, but not at you.
Okay.
Because in our heads, whenever we see a celeb, like say Preeti Zinta or Priyanka Chopra, who we don't know, we give them permission to be in the limelight. When it's a friend of yours who you know, we're like, what is so special about this person?
Oh, yes.
Yes. So that's what it comes down to, whether it's trolls or friends or whatever. When they think they know you, suddenly you're not good enough to be there.
You're so right about this. I'd like to point out an incident that happened with me recently. One of my really close friends from school, we were having this conversation amongst other friends. Turns out that they say, oh, Zarina, now you're doing a lot of big work, in your industry, and you're doing your own podcast, and, you're associated with films, you're doing this, that, blah, blah. And one of them just instantly quips, she's always been an attention seeker.
No, but you know what?
And these are friends I'm talking about.
Exactly.
And they've all just turned into moms or marriages or whatever. I'm happy for you. Yeah, you have 2 kids, 10 kids, no kids. I'm a happy person, so I'm happy for you. But in that moment, so many years of my friendship, it just turned into me realizing that envy can happen to anybody. Now, I don't know whether that is just you don't want to see somebody in a place where you are not.
That's one of the reasons.
Right. And the other is that you just can't digest or kind of comprehend the fact that somebody you know so closely can do something of that capacity.
Yeah.
Or something unimaginable.
Because you know them. You know that there's nothing special inside. Honestly, there is nothing special about anybody except the desire to be there.
True. And I think in having said that, Kajol, that you said that nothing special, that's the most special quality we all have. We're all unique in our own way.
Exactly.
Some of us enhance it, or we kind of pursue what we love doing and we make something happen out of it. And whether it's big or small, it really doesn't matter. But that statement, when you said this whole experience with friends, I just remember she's been an attention seeker. And one of my other friends, she's like, when was she an attention seeker? I hardly heard her ever taking any attention. So I just kind of realized the temperature of the room changing in front of me. And I am just sitting pretty speechlessly in that moment and watching. I'm trying to figure out who's happy and who's not about when you're being successful. And that brings me to, what is your definition of success?
What is my definition of success? So I have no idea how to answer that. It's just that I'm having more fun than I've ever had in my life.
Excellent.
I have enough money to get by, which is not coming from comedy at this point of time. Like, I do a lot of shows, but my CA told me, he said, why aren't you declaring all your income? I said, are you allowed to declare free pizza? I mean, really? But I can't see myself doing anything different. I live when I go on stage.
Wow.
And I think that's true of every stand-up comedian. There is no reason why you take the humiliation and the constant trial and error unless you really, really love being on stage.
That's true. That's true. For every stand-up comedian out there.
Yeah.
Isn't it? My definition of success is many things, actually. In terms of, when you're thinking success, it's your own definition of it, basically. You don't have to define it by other people's definition. That's one. And two, I think what we actually do is, we don't focus on success so much, Kajol. A lot of times, you see people focus on their failures.
I know.
Instead of their success. And how do they focus on their failures? They focus by deciding that they have failed in comparison to another person's success.
I totally agree with you.
Isn't it?
And especially with social media, it is so easy to be fooled.
Right. And so, I think it's really wrong because you can't determine your failure on another person's success. You can determine it only when you have stopped growing.
But Zarina, it's... how do you make yourself think that when you get so many inputs on Facebook about people talking about their holidays to Greece and, their perfect lives and the beautiful pictures that they put up on Instagram and the makeup and whatever, it just looks so perfect.
Right. But why are we running after perfection? That's the question, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And also, like the saying goes, we say grass is greener on the other side. And we've always heard that. But how about watering the grass on your side? It's just
mindset,
a perception, I personally feel, to be honest with you, I have been extremely horrible and technologically challenged when it comes to social media. I have been terrible at it. It's only taken me the last 1-2 years, and my producer will agree with me. She's been one of the pushy ones on this front, get onto social media, do something. And it doesn't bother me. Because I see other people's lives. That's what I'm talking about. What we do is we are comparing. When we're seeing somebody having that holiday in Greece, or that perfect family, or that perfect body, or that perfect, restaurant or date, you're already thinking you don't have it.
Yeah.
But hello, you weren't planning a holiday to Greece. You can compare a holiday to Greece when two people have gone to Greece and done two different things. Even then, I don't think it's comparable. But
I get you.
You know what I'm trying to say? It's basically apples and oranges. You're basically trying to compare apples and oranges and thinking that there is a comparison here.
I get you.
So, in my opinion, most people fail because they're comparing successes.
No, you're totally right about that. And you know what? You're totally right about this urge for perfection.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people have come to my shows. Friends of mine I've known for years and called me up the next day with feedback. Interesting feedback. So, all the while I was sitting on stage trying to pour my heart into my performance, they're like, listen, you really need to go to the gym.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah, that's the first thing I heard. Like, you really, it's just not looking good anymore. I was caught up in that initially, I used to always get scared. Have the pictures of the event come good? Is it my right side? Is it my good side? Are the arms looking too big? You can't control it. I mean, that actually just gets in your way on stage. If you're starting to think of how you look and luckily stand up with an art where you can get out of bed and go on stage.
Oh, yes. Lucky you.
Yeah.
That's a profession that allows you to do that.
Yeah.
And people can still laugh and you'll be like, okay, glad you're laughing that I'm in my out of the bed look.
No, actually, looks are a deterrent as a stand-up comic.
Yes. But this whole idea of perfection, you're right. I personally always tell clients, everybody is seeking perfection. So, you know what happens is when you're talking to a CEO of an organization, they've already achieved everything. Why are they going through coaching? They're going through coaching because, look, what are we looking at? When we talked about our definition of success, most of the people around us don't even have the same definition. Their definition is having a good bank balance, having the money to buy a home, the best car, best lifestyle. Well, we all want that. It's not like we don't. But what's the need for perfection? You are human, you are flawed, and you will remain. There's space and there's this area for improvement.
Yeah.
You can keep improving. You can always keep getting better. You can keep evolving as a human being. But being perfect, you should forget about it. Unless you're doing numbers.
See, if you ask me honestly, I would love to be a great stand-up comedian and look really good, going to the gym every day.
1 second. I'll just correct you there. You do look very good. And you are a great stand-up comedian. Now, that is on the basis of what other people think about the way you look. Nah, that doesn't work. See, that's what I'm talking. Yeah, if you feel, I can, there's where we go wrong. So, right now, Kajol, you look good. I'm not just saying this because you're on my show. Genuinely, you're a beautiful looking, wonderful woman. And I don't even think I can put you in the category of skinny or large or big or small. You're just perfect. But however, if in your eyes, you feel you want to do better, you want to be fitter, you want to be healthier, then it makes a difference. That, you can achieve more. But otherwise, it doesn't really matter.
There are good days and bad days in this kind of thinking. One day you'll get up thinking it's wonderful, it doesn't really matter. And the next day you get up thinking, you know what, my arms are looking massive in these pictures.
True. But then, that's the difference between the kind of people who will do and just say.
I get it.
So if I feel my arms are looking massive in a picture, I'm going to hit the gym at least for a week and pretend like I want to do something about it. Pretend. That's the key word here. I'll pretend it, even if I've not done anything much, but just the act of putting something or implementing action in something that you feel you are not good at.
I get it.
So you have people who are sitting at home cribbing and crying about how they look, but there's nothing they're willing to do. And let alone how they look outside. There's nothing anyone's willing to do from within them,
I get you.
Trying to figure out who you are, how beautiful you are, what's good about you.
Zarina, I have a question I want to ask you.
Sure.
Suppose you have a friend or let's say a stranger come up to you and tell you something negative about you, okay? About your appearance or about your look. Do you call it out? Do you ignore it? What do you do?
There are 4 things that I truly believe in the way we structure ourselves. 4 pillars, 4 A's we use in stress management. It's called accept, adjust, alter, or avoid.
Okay.
The question that I ask myself, and this does happen to all of us, right? So it's happened to me when somebody said, oh, you've put on weight. Or,
oh my God.
The typical ones.
Yeah.
What happened to you? And when I was younger, I used to have a lot of skin issues. So I had a lot of acne. There was a point when I would hate to go out because the first thing some auntie or uncle will notice is like, look at your face, what happened to you? Arey, ye nahi lagati, multani mitti lagao, haldi lagao, ye piyo. It's not like we don't look at ourselves in the mirrors every day.
I know,
we
it's like
exactly.
a news flash, yes.
Yeah, it's not like we're living in a box and suddenly we come out and people are telling us what we look like.
Yeah.
So I have been through those phases, and the one thing I do is, it's not even just avoiding it or ignoring it. It's about just smiling in that moment and letting them know it's not affected you, because that's what they want.
I know, but how do you get to that point of, are you a good actress? So how do you do it?
No, it's not about acting. It's about mind conditioning.
Okay.
You start conditioning your mind. You start, actually, there's a lot of positive self-talk involved.
Okay.
To go through a process like this, there's a lot of positive self-talk involved, Kajol, where you don't let everybody's words affect you. Now, how do you do that? When you've created the right amount of conscious energy within you, where you've told yourself the right amount of things. So you know how you have the angel and devil around you?
I get it.
So when somebody's coming and saying something mean or rude to you or something very insulting, your angel is supposed to speak to you in that moment and tell you, hey, that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
That's not who you are. Smile, let it go. Instead of allowing the little devil to come and tell you, oh, she's right, you
Yeah,
look
it
ugly.
resonates with you. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So why does that happen? Because we start believing other people's views of us.
Yeah.
The minute we stop doing that, and it's taken me a while, to be honest. I mean, I'm telling you, when I was a teenager, there was this job I did as a receptionist in one of these air hostess academies.
Okay.
So it was a very random job because I was just basically working out. I had a college break.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working there. And I had really huge pimples and acne at that point. So after about 2-3 months, the boss says, you know what? You now will go into the room and you will take consultation. So I actually thought I got a promotion.
Oh my God.
I actually thought I got a promotion at that point in time, and only to realize that the other girl who worked with me, she was a good friend of mine. And she was like, actually, the thing is, we can't have you sitting here with that face. Yes.
What did you say?
I was young. I didn't say anything. I probably cried then. I don't
Obviously,
remember. But then again, now this face gets paid. So it's okay. With all those craters. I don't mind. I love who I am.
But tell me one thing. Does it ever bother you? And it bothers me. Okay. I'm a very petty person that way. It bothers me that the people who said stuff to me didn't get it back.
It does?
It does.
We're different people. We're all different. But the question you should ask yourself in that situation, Kajol, is, when you give it back, will you still feel better about yourself?
I think it tells a part of me that I'm worth standing up for myself.
Okay.
Because I've kept quiet all my life. In fact, a lot of my friends can't take the stand-up me.
Oh.
Because when you're on stage, you learn to stand your ground.
Right.
So, I mean, everyone's punching bag, okay? They now get a little worried that I'm opening my mouth and saying, no, I'm sorry, I'm not listening to what you're saying.
Which is great. Standing up for yourself and giving back are two different things.
Yeah, I didn't mean insulting them. No.
No, giving back, I know what you mean by calling people out for what they do in that moment. But sometimes what happens is, like I said, we're different people. I do like to do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I did face a lot of anger management when I was a teenager. And it all came from the fact that there was always this urge of wanting to give back.
Yeah, I know.
At the minute, I kind of, maybe my profession found me. So I'm very happy and very, very blessed, fortunate to be in the profession I am. It's actually helped me to grow as a person.
I get you.
So every time I'm talking to somebody else, there's a part of me which is also growing, you know. And in that part, I have realized that the need to keep giving or calling somebody out for something that they are and something that you are not sometimes makes it unworthy. It's a waste of time.
Okay, tell me one thing. Suppose someone comes up to me and calls me fat and I don't respond to it. Won't they be going out there, because now they know that no one, these introverts or these shy people don't respond to me.
Right.
So won't they be going out and doing damage to other people? Wouldn't me calling him out put a little fear into him that, you know what?
Okay, how would you call him out? Let's take this as a genuine example and illustrate it.
Okay. So a very close friend of mine, actually, she kind of sees all my pictures on the net and she has comments. She says, listen, don't wear short dresses. Your legs are fat.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And don't wear this thing. This silhouette doesn't look good on you. You're looking stressed. Are you getting enough sleep? My point is, I had to call it out at some point.
True.
Because if you don't call it out, you're absorbing all of that. And somewhere inside you, because you're used to being a punching bag all your life, somewhere inside you, there is this resonation happening saying that, yeah, maybe it's true. So you need to say, no, I'm sorry. I'm not interested in your negativity. And I did not ask for your advice.
Correct.
And I do not look at your pictures with the intention of telling you what's wrong with it.
Exactly.
I've never done that to anyone.
That's the whole difference between you and this other person. You know, one thing I can tell you, I reckon you stop looking at yourself. In general, I think people should stop looking at themselves as punching bags and more as sponges.
Okay.
When you look at yourself as a sponge, you've absorbed everything. But you are in the position to squeeze it out and become a whole again and be able to absorb something new. See,
Isn't that weak?
I guess if you have negativity or people have filled you with negativity, what better than squeezing it out?
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
When you're talking about, like I said, positive self-talk, when a friend like that comes up to you and is constantly only commenting on your legs are fat or you're not looking great or, you haven't slept or dark circles and all the jazz, it just doesn't make sense to actually, you can tell them off. But if that's the kind of person they are,
it did not go well.
Exactly my point.
It didn't go well.
So what I'm trying to say is there are people you have to call out because you should not only stand up for yourself. Like you said, they will go out and damage other people. So yes, you should stand up for others. You should make a point. You should kind of put across what you feel out there. Like you also mentioned this other influencer and stand-up comedian, the woman who spoke out to her trollers. It's important to do that. But what also happens is sometimes in doing that, we might lose the message. So we have to make sure that message is intact.
I get you. It's a tough line to walk.
It is. So one of the best ways to deal with it, to be honest, you get all of this all the time. And no matter what field you are in and what you're doing, which industry you come from, there are people who want to bring you down. And there'll always be those people. Now, if they can't do it professionally, they will attack you personally.
Mostly.
Right?
Mostly.
So, I guess if those kind of personal attackers come in, it's best to just let them know that, you have like a nice shield in front of you and their attacks aren't really getting through to you.
You know what happens mostly? You end up avoiding a lot of people.
Absolutely. And maybe avoiding people like that is kind of eliminating toxic
but you end up avoiding a lot of them.
I know what you mean. Well, on that note, let me ask you this. Our conversation can go on forever, but I guess we're coming to the end of the show. So I want to know, Kajol, what empowers you?
Knowing that this is wherever life has brought me, in whatever way, this is exactly where I wanted to be.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, and how do you want to empower our listeners?
I think you should never give up. Okay. If there is an inkling within you that you want to do something different, don't just jump into it with leaving everything else, but definitely do it on the side. If you really want to do it, it is possible.
Right.
And I think everyone should try being on stage once.
Oh, of course. One of the things I master is public speaking. Help people to learn and deal with stage fright. And I completely second that. I think everybody should experience the stage at least once because it's a fear you need to get rid of, if nothing else.
Totally. What empowers you?
Me, so much empowers me. The most empowering thing around us is the fact that we are living, breathing, communicating human beings. And unfortunately, we don't do much about it.
Okay.
So I just feel that we have the innate ability as human beings to touch another's life.
Very true.
And what completely empowers me is the fact that I am fortunate enough to be able to do that with mine.
Nice. Very
so,
nice.
Yes. Thank you so much, Kajol. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show.
Here.
And I think, on this particular episode, I got a chance to share a couple of my stories as well. So thank you.
Okay.
I think it was a co-hosted episode. Thank you so much, Kajol, for being on the show. And I hope to have you again.
Thank you for having me.
If you liked this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram.
Do you have a night routine? Well, everyone has one. And the to-do list usually looks like this. Brush your teeth, set that alarm, get into your pajamas, and switch off those screens. But here's one more to add to that list. Tune into the Positively Unlimited podcast for a dose of positive action and tips on how to build powerful mindsets. Episodes out every Monday on the IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or wherever you tune into podcasts.
up in the internet. It's a meme. No, it's a cat video. No, it's the Geek Fruit Podcast.
That's right, we interrupt this riveting broadcast to tell you about our show, the Geek Fruit Podcast, where Tejas, Dinkar and I, Jishnu, talk about everything in pop culture, including DC, Marvel, Star Wars, Netflix, and everything in between.
You know how your friends hate it when you ramble about some nerdy crap and you just want somebody to listen to you? Well, sorry, there's nothing we can do about that, but come listen to us ramble and it'll almost be like the real thing. Kind of.
Listen to new episodes of the Geek Fruit Podcast every Monday and the Geek Fruit Bulletin every Thursday on iTunes, Google Podcasts, the IVM app, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Happy listening, you nerds.